Maya, the favorite subject of all conspiracy theorists. There are countless mysteries left by the mysterious civilization, how they had such a highly developed calendar and precise calculations of the position of the planets, how the Maya, not knowing the wheel, managed to build such huge pyramids perfectly, and most importantly why in the 10th century such a powerful and developed civilization suddenly disappeared. A host of theories about aliens, time travel and magic emerge to answer these questions. In the next few minutes we will answer the most frequently asked questions about the Maya civilization. The main mystery of these civilizations is that there is no mystery. Archaeologists and scientists have long since unraveled this mystery. The only problem is that no one wants to listen to them. They find it much more interesting to make up stupid stories. In the next few minutes we'll bust these myths by replacing them with hard reality. And our character Raul will help us with this. The name doesn't really come from the Mayan civilization because pronouncing their language is a bit difficult. And in general about what the language of the ancient Mayan civilization sounded like, mankind doesn't really know much. That's why they let it be the Mexican Raul. At least in the territory of modern Mexico in the past the Mayan tribes lived. The Maya state was located mostly on the territory of the Yucatan Peninsula, but in different eras they also reached the territory of today's Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador and even Honduras. Sometime in the year 600 BC Raul lived in the middle of the legendary city of Chichen Itza, which has been included in the updated list of the 7 wonders of the world. The Maya is not ancient Egypt or the Sumerians, it is a civilization that lived not so long ago. Although bones have been discovered in the Yucatan city dating back to 2000 BC, the Maya civilization has long since emerged. It is traditionally believed that the first pre-classical period did not end until the year 250 AD, while the golden age of the Maya world was experienced even later, from the 3rd–6th century onwards, i.e. after the Roman Empire's breakup in Europe. That's the first catch, and the second is that there was no Maya Empire and super-state. The Maya should just be called a civilization because it was just an organization of city-states that often did not reconcile with each other, even though they had a similar culture and language. On the other hand, one of the extinction theories says that the Maya simply killed each other. In reality, this is obviously not the case, but the fact that there were bloody internal wars is obvious. It is also obvious that our Raul did not consider himself a Maya. The term Maya became widely used after Columbus's records, to whom the locals introduced themselves as inhabitants of the Mayan province and Raul as an inhabitant of Chichen Itza, one of the largest and most beautiful cities of the Maya civilization. The people did not know about iron and developed technologies, but this did not prevent them from creating beautiful architectural masterpieces. The natives simply used what they had at hand, stones and wood that were processed with sand and water. Then using advanced knowledge of mathematics and geometry they created beautiful houses and palaces, some of which have survived to this day. As in ancient Egypt most pyramids were built to show the nobility of the rulers, plus it was used as a platform for astronomical observations. But for Raul this was not important enough. He is a simple worker and a typical member of Mayan society. As mentioned before, the civilization was part of city-states, and on the outskirts lived families like Raul's who gathered in groups and worked the land. Despite the fact that Yucatan is a territory with a tropical climate, there were problems with drinking water, which led the Maya to use groundwater. The technology used by the Maya for agriculture is quite advanced, and despite the fact that they had a fairly narrow territory it allowed them to survive. For the most part they grew and consumed corn, which was their main product. Things went so far that one of the main gods of the Maya was the god of corn. They were very responsible when it came to the fruit. Because of the unstable climate the cultivation of crops was difficult. This forced families to change their place of living. That's why the Mayan civilization always migrated. As well as working on the crops, Raul was involved in community service and of course military service. Each city had a strict hierarchy with kings and a bunch of bureaucrats, but as such they had no regular army until the last stage of the Mayan civilization's existence. Mainly the common people were called up by force by the ruler. Compared to Egypt, questions here did not appear because kings were considered deputies of the gods, of which the Maya had a few thousand. Even for different types of deaths there were separate gods. Here we reveal why everyone is waiting for the end of the world in 2012. The Mayan people were passionate about astronomy. A special class of priests dealt with it, and the cosmos became intertwined with both religion and science. For example, the Maya realized that Venus makes a complete cycle of movement around its orbit for 584 days, current calculations call the figure 583.9 days. That's 1500 years ago. The Maya civilization had an extraordinary accuracy of calculation. The same can be said of other celestial bodies. The Maya did not simply study the phases of the moon, they also understood how they affected nature. No wonder such coincidences in the behavior of celestial bodies brought humans into total shock. Obviously they started to worship all at once, adapting their lives. For example, the invention of the calendar, and not one but two. The Maya had a long calendar that was public to all and a short one for rituals. The long one was again extraordinarily precise, because it was equal to 365 days, divided into 18 months each with 20 days. Most excitingly, the first day of the month was not measured by the number 1 but by 0, whose invention is attributed to the Maya because they did not use the decimal scale but the system of 20 units, which ended at the number 19. And Tolkien's short calendar for rituals was 260 days, which included 13 months of 20 days each. Mostly it was used for religious ceremonies and predictions of good and bad days, because those 5 extra days in the long calendar were considered bad days. But there was no particular confusion. Farmers and most of the population lived by the standards of the long calendar, and the short one was largely left to the priests. There is some debate about it because it is not clear where the figure 260 was taken from, until the most basic theory is that this is how long a woman's pregnancy lasts. This is also where the hypothesis about the end of the world came from. The Mayan civilization considered everything to be a cycle, so having an exact calendar, they believed that everything living lived by these laws. They adapted their mythology to this view by dividing the universe into eras. These eras lasted approximately 5,200 years, which were divided into 13 small periods accompanied by apocalypses that wiped out all living things. So according to these Mayan dates, our era began sometime in 3114 BC after a terrible flood when the sky fell to earth and everything went dark. It would be logical to propose that this theory arose from a volcanic eruption that resulted in a tsunami of volcanic dust that covered the sunlight. According to Mayan calculations, this era was supposed to end in the year 2012, but it was not to be, but the only thing we have to draw attention to is the distance of the 5200 era, and what anomaly scared the Mayan ancestors 5,000 years ago. However much the Mayans believed in gods and mythology, herein lies another analogy to ancient Egypt, where pyramids were built in the sincere belief that the richer the pharaoh, the richer the locals would be. The Maya built pyramids in the same way, believing it made the gods happier. The Maya civilization believed that every king was a descendant of the gods who created all living things. According to research by archaeologists, the Maya created beautiful architecture specifically for the comfort of the gods and not for art. Also for the satisfaction of the gods, the Mayans played with the ball. In the city of Chichen Itza alone, there were 7 stadiums, and archaeological excavations in this territory show that the ball game for the Mayans was everything, but the rules have not reached the present day. But there is every reason to believe that the game was a hybrid of football and volleyball, where the team held the ball in their hands, throwing it at each other. Later on, rings appeared on the walls involving elements of today's basketball, again all ritualistic in nature, but it is not known which ones. There are records that losers as well as winners were sacrificed. This is the sad part of the Mayan civilization, because sacrifices were indeed made. Although captives from other cities were sacrificed, slaves were not, but soldiers who were captured from other cities can be included in this category. Here is where it is most interesting to remember how such a technologically developed people with extraordinary knowledge in mathematics and astronomy suddenly disappeared. First, we will discuss the factors and the most important ones that the Maya did not disappear anywhere. They live and until today being an ethnic group on the territory of Mexico and Yucatan. The Maya did not disappear anywhere, simply their cities had reached decay. What stated the first Spaniards who arrived on the continent, when they wanted to conquer territories, they noticed that mostly everything was done for them, and that the big cities were already deserted and lifeless. Here also arose the myth that the Maya who lived their golden age mysteriously disappeared between the 10th and 11th centuries. In fact, things are much simpler and transparent, because despite the decline of the conquistadors, they got to fight with the Maya civilization, and some of those who remained, as I mentioned, live quietly to this day. There are many tales of brotherly wars, aliens, and even epidemics. The most popular theory says that the climate suddenly changed on the territory of civilization, and that there was a severe drought and rains were not years. And in general, the drought lasted around 95 years, which brought great losses to civilization. And so it is obvious that there were famines and migration of people, so whole cities were deserted. The fact that there was a drought is documented by archaeologists who have studied the soil of those times, and opponents of the theory have argued that in the case of an ecological disaster, it is not clear why only the south was hit, while the north of civilization continued to develop, but modern defenses have put an end to the debate. The drought was also in the north, only there the Mayans resisted, and still fought among themselves over resources. so the extinction of civilization was due to cataclysms and human feuds. And the reason for the birth of most of the rumors are the Mexicans, because the church ordered to destroy all the books and inscriptions about the conquered territories, so only 4 books about the Maya remained and there was no mystery. There are only Europeans who cut out most of the information about the Maya and left only a part about them, and all the work of the civilization went to waste, but as modern technology came along, scientists solved almost all the remaining mysteries. All that remains is to find out how they built these pyramids without the use of work animals and wheels. But there are answers to that too. The Mayans built very good roads, and used human power, and there are plenty of statues of people carrying large stones on their backs. So they didn't need aliens, plus all people considered such hard work a gift from the gods. With that we will end. If there are any more questions, please write them in the comments, we will try our best to answer them all. Have a nice day, my friends.